Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Cloud Bytes Conversations. I'm really pleased to have with us today someone who most people probably know as Windyo, but who does have a real name. His name is Geoffrey Bussero Fournier. He is better known as Windyo, as I mentioned, and is the founder of the SFXD Unofficial Salesforce Discord, amongst many other things, which we'll be diving in today. Welcome to the podcast, Geoffrey or Windyo.
Hi, lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. So, when I started the podcast, the kind of idea behind the podcast was to get interesting people who are doing interesting things onto the podcast, particularly those that are given stuff back to the community without really kind of any drive or want for something from it. And you fit that bill perfectly, and we've got loads of interesting stuff I'm looking forward to talk about today. But to start off with, give us a little bit of a background as to who you are, how you got into Salesforce. So I know from a bit of LinkedIn stalking earlier on, but also from the conversations you and I have had before that you've not got what I'm going to call the most typical background. I mean, for coming into a software development role, you've done all sorts of different jobs beforehand, which we'll dive into. So, do you want to give us an overview of how you got into the Salesforce ecosystem and your background?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I was trying to think of a way to put a joke about Nyan Cat in there because the background, but just like whatever. It got away from
Yeah.
me. So who am I? I'm Geoffrey, Windyo, whatever you want to call me. And I've been doing Salesforce for more than 10 years, which time zero, as they say, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm that untypical, if we're being completely honest. Like, I'm the pretty typical Salesforce accident, if we're going to call it like that, right?
Okay. Yeah,
Like,
that's a good way.
I started out with a master's in translation and interpretation. I was always a huge geek, not so much a nerd, but a huge geek I always was. But I was kind of afraid that if I studied computers, I would become very good at computers, hate it, and not learn how to speak to people, which was something I was always bad at. So I chose the other route and went to study communications and interpretation instead, which
Oh
yielded
yeah.
positive results. I can actually speak to people without making a complete fool of myself sometimes, which is great use for 5 years of studying. But at the end of that master's, we had this professionalization thing. In France, we call that alternance. Basically, every country sort of has it. Right? You do like a half your time within the studies and half the time during the company, and you get paid for that, which was great news for student me. I loved getting
Yeah.
paid. And I ended up in a well, I mean, you probably know the oil company, Total, the
Mm-hmm.
energy company. Well, I worked for those guys as a communications internship, but they hired me not so much because of my communication skills. That's why they hired the other person that was also at my school, but more because of the fact that they realized that I was a huge geek, and it turns out that they had requirements regarding some internal stuff regarding how we were doing internal communications. We implemented Salesforce during that time. I'm going to stay vague for obvious reasons. And during the implementation phase, well, I mean, I chaperoned the project. I became the project manager, learned what I had to in order to be, whatever I needed to do for that project. And I got offered a job by the consulting company. I mean, more by the consultant that implemented the project at
Mm-hmm.
our company then. And I went there, I interviewed, and that's how I got into Salesforce.
That's
Complete accident.
well. I mean, for most of us, it's a complete accident. The reason I said a slightly less typical route into Salesforce or kind of into an IT role is because of that communications background. Because to me, I would love to have good or better communication skills, or at least good communication skills in one language. You seem to have managed it in two, at least,
Thank
and
you.
it's. I think it's a really interesting, different way in because it kind of highlights how, or to me, highlights how Salesforce is really has really benefited from having people from different walks of life come into it. So, for example, Jodie Herbeck, who has written the Rock Your Role as a Salesforce Admin book, she did sales. She was a salesperson, I think even a salesperson at Salesforce, if I remember correctly, and that gives you a very different perspective on how to use and work with a product
Mm.
than just coming in as a techie who's like, it's a bit of software. And so, yeah, I think it's a really cool and interesting background to have, to be able to say, well, my training is on, and my background is on communicating things better, because that's the really hard part of software delivery. Is I had a very good chat with Matthew Morris a while ago, and he
Mm.
reiterated to me the three difficult things. There's three problems in a project, which are people, processes, and technology. And the
Mm.
technology, let's be honest, is pretty easy. We can all make an Apex class or a flow. We can make something work, right? The process is often fairly okay. It's not as complicated as people think it is, and it can be rationalized out. But it's always difficult working with other people and getting them on board, getting them to understand, getting them to drop that little fiefdom. So I think it's cool that you've got that background that probably helps you in that, without even realizing it, I suppose.
No, I mean, I do realize it because just like, I mean, I'm one of the rare people at my company who has a communications background. And if you look at my contributions on SFXT, even over the past years, I'm pretty much one of the only people who, just like always, fights for their end users literally all the time. Like, I mean, one
Mm.
of my pet peeves, if we're being completely honest, is the you know that usual conversation online that goes just like, oh, it's another Friday. My users have insert thing here, just like and basically,
Yep.
what are my users doing and whatever, or just like you won't believe this random thing that just, I mean, how, why must the business request such asinine things? Not swearing is really hard.
You can go for it. It's fine. This is a safe place. You can say what you want.
Anyway, and I'm just like, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, Like, I mean, specifically for Salesforce. Salesforce is literally a business system. It's literally its only job. Like, I mean, if you were looking for a database, there's better things for it. If you were looking for an events platform, there's better things for it. Hell, there's even better CRMs or data platforms. Like, I mean, it's really bad. Like, I mean, at any single one of all of those, but it's great that unifying it from this business standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they make money out of. So if you're fighting against your users and you're saying that they have no god darn idea about what the hell they're asking, maybe you have to ask yourself a question. And that's the thing. Like, it's mind-bogglingly frequent in our job to get people who see themselves as, the defensor of streamlining processes or whatever. But just like, I mean, processes are never streamlined. When I buy a phone, I spend on average a couple of weeks researching every single phone, looking at which one is the best for me, if it has a good camera, is it too big, like can I fit it in my pocket, can I replace it if it breaks, that sort of stuff. And I mean, then I look for coupon codes, right? Just like I'm annoying. And this is like the default process for buying a phone. And I know just like a gazillion people just like me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying that sales processes on the business side needs to be streamlined. Like, no,
Oh yeah.
it's not going to be streamlined. There's going to be idiots like me on the other side, and we need to build the system for them. Like, any system is only as good as its worst user, because those are the people who are making it function, weirdly enough.
It's you hit upon like two. Well, so first of all, just be like me and just buy an iPhone and have everything work on Apple, and you're fine. There's your simple answer for buying a phone. But
No.
because I've just got everything Apple and it works lovely and it's easy. But what you say there about thinking about the end users and defending like the end users, and yeah, everyone's had that initial reaction of, oh, why are they asking for this thing? They're so stupid. And we've all seen the memes of like, there was a video I saw the other day of, it was a capture. It said, product manager. This is such a simple feature. The users all know how to use it. And it was a video of like some firefighters with a hose on the floor, and it was a thin
Mm,
hose. And this old lady walked up to the hose, and rather than just stepping over it, lifted the hose up and pulled it over the top of herself, and it was just labeled
mm,
users. And it was, and obviously we have that, but I think you hit upon something that, or two things. The first of which is, I have a big bugbear, and I had a rant about this recently on one of the coding live streams I did with Peter Chittum
Mm,
about developers that don't, excuse me, test or use the product as a user. And the second thing is around Agent Force, which we'll come to in a sec. But for that, excuse me, for that testing and using it as a user, one of the things that really drives me bananas is, you know, and this kind of conversation was in relation to like mocking frameworks and things like that. And yet
mm.
people are saying, oh, the reason I use a mocking framework is because Salesforce is too slow to save all the data during a test and run it. And I'm just like, well, then your code's slow. If your code and your system are running slow, it's because they're slow. What do you think it's like for an end user? And I have this real irritation that a lot of developers don't seem to sit down and test it as an end user, because they sit there and we all do happy path testing. Sometimes we've all been there where we go on like, oh, okay, I've implemented this 15 screen wizard, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter the bare minimum data to go click, 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 and get to the end and go, I saved a record, fantastic. Whereas there is some poor person sat there, and it could take them 5-10 minutes to go through that process. It could be really difficult for them. The save, if your save takes up the full 10 seconds of transaction time on the CPU, who likes sitting there watching your windows spin for 10 seconds? It really, really infuriates me. So I think it's a really kind of, so sorry for getting on my soapbox again, but I feel like that's a really, I feel that's a really close tie with what you've just said there about like making sure you advocate for the users, and that not having that default reaction of, well, why are they asking for this? These stupid people. Yeah. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, no, I get you. I think I agree. It's just like we're not building any software that's, groundbreaking.
no?
Literally, the only job of a Salesforce architect, consultant, developer, insert title here is to make sure their business users get value out of the CRM. Once again, if it was anything else, there would be a better tool for this. If it's just a database, you use Postgre, right?
Mhm.
So if the users are frustrated and they're just like asking for stuff. I mean, we can get into the entire XYZ problem, right? And saying just like, yes, but they're not asking for what they really want, which is another
Yeah.
problem. There's ways, tools, frameworks in order to actually ensure that you get, the real needs out of people. It takes communication, it takes time, but it's doable. But apart from that, just like, I mean, if your users are requesting something, most of the time they're right, because at some point in the day, it's frustrating them. You can do a cost analysis. Maybe you don't solve everything, but I'm just saying if your users are frustrated using your system, specifically for Salesforce, you have done a bad job
Oh yeah.
because it's
It's
the
it's.
only purpose of the system.
I mean, yeah. Salesforce's big sell is largely, I'm going to allow you to make a decent functioning database with the UI without actually having to know how to make a database or a UI. That's
Yep.
that's like 90% of the use cases. So, which leads me on to kind of the second thing I was going to kind of note on there, which is around Agent Force and things. So,
Mm,
obviously, Agent Force is the big, super wonderful everything going on today. And where you just hit upon like that sales process thing, and I'd just be keen to get your thoughts on Agent Force and these new kind of AI technologies and things in general, because I am a big fan and a big advocate of AI and using it to really kind of streamline some work. I use Copilot, I use ChatGPT to kind of assist me in doing things, and Grammarly and all these things. But the idea, and for Agent Force, the idea of a service agent, I get, because that's really just a chatbot. Like it's a chatbot with slightly different branding, if we're being really frank, right? But for sales, I just don't think, in my small mind, is that especially for B2B sales, if I reached out to a company and said, "Hi, I'd like to ask some questions to get a demo and understand the pricing model and how this stuff works on your app," if I got a response from "Hi, I'm a bot," like, I don't know, I just feel like that would turn me off. But I don't know if that's me, and it's just me thinking about it. But just around that kind of view of processes and the difficulty around them and streamlining them. Do you think, do you think, that plays in as well, or?
I I think the opposite of you, actually.
Okay, cool. This is
I
good. So what?
hugely dislike Agentforce for service, and I think I'm fine for it for sales. I've used like AI quite a bit over the last year, right, in
Mhm,
multiple like avenues. I use it a bit more now because I actually like a small segue, but not going to go too deep into it. In my uh, in my tries, not good word, but fine. In my tries to de-Googleize pretty much my life, I've started paying for search. I use one of the search engines, not gonna do whatever, but it turns out that in their highest tier, they have AI inside of it
mhm,
with just like basically subboxing and just like auto deletion of everything, so it doesn't actually leave it. Like the
mhm,
concept of your own small searches every 24 hours, and they have like regulatory agreements that know that I get saved for the training models. So I'm quite happy with
mhm,
that. So I use that a lot more because, well, now I just basically pay for it like as part of my search avenues. So I use it quite a bit, but I mean, we can call it agents force. It's still just Einstein Copilot, which is still just a retrieval augmented generation tool using a large language model, which means
yeah,
like if you decompose everything, it's statistics that just like try to do chain of just like answers. Insofar as I know, the only machine learning thing that uses languages like really like thinking chain of thought is GPT-o1. I think it's brand new, and to be completely honest, I don't understand it. Like I don't have
yeah,
training in this, so I can't go deep enough to speak about this. So in my mind, at least, what I'm currently at is there's still the potential for hallucinations. There's still the potential of bad answers, and basically, it's just statistics on top of just like some jello that just like moves a bit around with the user's requests. If you take all of that, in my mind, what it becomes is AI is great as doing things that have already been done before with minor variations. Is what I'm
mm,
transitioning into, right? So,
yeah,
um, creating brand new works is something that it can do in a style that was done before or in a logic that was done before, but it can't really just like invent something from scratch completely. Like that's not the way it works,
no,
insofar as I understand. I could be wrong, right? But insofar as I understand, this is it. Now, taking all of this as a basis, to go back over what you said in order, I hate it for service. I really do. Because
okay,
first of all, that means that it's going to give cookie cutter answers for just like 99% of responses. And if I'm trying to talk to a service agent, I am not trying to get an answer of just like what's the pricing on your rye bread. I am trying to tell you, yeah, I'm locked out of my account and I've tried to reset the password already and it's not working. Can you help me? And I'm gonna get an answer of, have you tried looking at your knowledge base? Yes, I have. Can you try again? Yes, I can. And now, again, no, I want to speak to a human. Why? I'm still perfectly capable. It's just like woefully annoying. And the best part is when it hallucinates, because it is going to hallucinate one day, right? It has already happened.
yeah,
Who's left holding the bag? Like if a chatbot invents a coupon for 50% and tells you it will work, whose responsibility is it then? Is it the
so,
chatbot offers? Is it the companies? Is it just like is the end consumer left holding the bag of something that just like doesn't actually work because a chatbot has hallucinated? It's just like kind of irks me. Like I mean, for service answers, it's just like, eh. The only thing I like about it is getting knowledge articles presented in a more human friendly manner. Rephrasing knowledge, great stuff. For the rest of it, for service, for chatbot specifically, I really hate that application. I really do.
I see. I think so. I suppose so. I get so the statistics on statistics thing completely. I did a talk at London's Calling, which was literally just out of like, AI is wonderful, but all this is making a good guess. Like, and
Mm,
that's all. That's all any of these systems are at the moment. Anyway, I think I think the service thing. The reason for me it works better for service is that I try and you and I are not the typical user because
mm,
have you ever seen? I've just found it. There's a brilliant XKCD which I know that I'm pretty sure you're a reader of as well. I think that's how we were discussing about SFXD originally. Um,
um,
And there's an XKCD comic which I'll link to in the notes for the episode, where there's a guy who wants to get support for his modem, and he's on the phone, and he just says,
Shibboleth?
"Say
Is
again,
it the
sorry."
Shibboleth? Is it the Shibboleth XKCD or not?
No, it's tech support, and it's the one where he calls and he says he's trying to get help with his modem, and then he says, "Is there someone that has? Is there someone wearing cargo pants?" And someone goes, "Oh, there's someone there with two phones and a stuffed penguin doll and a poster of a bearded dude with some swords."
Hmm.
And he goes, "Great, put me through." And it's just this kind of uber nerd that's like, "Oh, yep, you've got like this issue. I've changed it," and like it's the ultimate tech support person because it's a techie nerd in the background. And
Yep.
yeah, we've all had that when we've called up with an internet problem, where it's like, "Oh, can I get support?" And they're like, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" And like, but I suppose that's why I think it's good for service, because I think it can deal with it, like, because a lot of people are going to ask those questions. Whereas I think for sales, that's where I'm like, yeah, do you know what? If I can trick it into giving me a 50% discount, like, who's holding the bag for the 50% discount then? Or if I ask you for something, is it a legally binding contract when he gives me a price or not?
Yeah, but it's the same for service. Like if you forget about anything binding or contract related, for
Mm.
service it's basically just a case deflection tool, which means more
Oh
annoyance
yeah.
for users, but just like less cases for you. If you use it for sales though, just like how many times in your life have you used the same PDF PowerPoint deck, but just like mildly modified it because it's just like mildly vertical centric
Yeah.
or but just like short modifications. And how many customer stories are literally the same processes, but just like with minor differences? Let's be completely honest. We work for companies, right? And apart from very, very specific cases, you can basically boil it down to, hi, I am a company. I sell stuff and then I offer support on stuff.
Hmm.
The minor differences in processes, as huge as they may be for the end consumer, doesn't really change much about the data model. They don't really change much about just like the raw offering or the contractualization. It's just like terms, conditions, but just like you still get offer, you still get your products, you still get your pricings that are depending on region. It's like, things are pretty much standardized like worldwide by now, right?
Hmm.
So all of this AI can do great, just like offer you a PowerPoint that just like tells you pretty much what it's going to be good for, how other consumers in the same vertical have used the same tooling and actually gotten success, what could be specific problems that they could look into. Let's be completely honest. If you take any sort of company in the world right now that's looking to implement Salesforce, if they have a chatbot that they can say, okay, what are going to be my biggest gains in the next year after implementing Salesforce as a insert just like vertical here, considering that I'm using it for XBU, the answer is going to be pretty grounded in reality because everybody's the same. And we've got done tons of case studies. So I love that for sales, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. I suppose I hadn't thought of it on that front. It's Yeah, I think so. I think in about 18 months' time, you and I are going to have to come back and like have another conversation, like dig through the data, see how the implementations have gone. Like,
Uh,
well, yeah, that'll be well. The thing is, it'll be Dreamforce 2025, so we'll actually be able to, just after that and decide. Well, first of all, is Agent Force still a thing or not? That's probably big question number one, and then question number two will be like, what's been successful on it? It's I saw a Reddit post the other day, which was it was someone joking saying that if you translate Ohana from Hawaiian, it means feature that won't be discussed in 18 months' time.
I was just gonna say that it's maybe going to go the same way as blockchain cloud or sustainability cloud or was it work.com? Wait a second, I forget. So many tools, so little time.
Yes. Which version of work.com? I think Peter Chittum did a really good post on this the other day where he was just kind of listing them out. And that's the that's the nature of making bets, I suppose, is that you've got to make bets as an organization to kind of see what sticks and what lands. It's good that they've got a few $1 billion to be able to do that though. So all right, so we've to kind of bring it back. So you got started in Salesforce as a project manager, and then kind of got a consulting role, and
Hmm.
since then you've moved through a number of different kind of jobs in the Salesforce space. So you've been a consultant, you've been a delivery director, you're now a technical architect, hub lead. So were you always very technical, or were you more on the functional side, or have you never really kind of seen the difference? Yeah, how have you kind of navigated your way up through the echelons of a career?
I think the last time I spoke about this was on the developer podcast with Joshua, if I remember.
Hmm.
Um, a short version is I got lucky. Like I mean, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm not good at my job. I am, so thank hells. But I still got pretty lucky. That's how I got the career I got. Right, just like I mean, you don't get a career out of just like pure talent. I started with tech when I got recruited in the consulting comp where I got the first project I had was a thing where they needed to load data, and my first interaction with Salesforce was through Jitterbit at the time,
Hmm.
which I don't use anymore because it is now very, very, very bad, and there are much better tools. But at the time, it was Jitterbit, which was the one all be all of data loaders. And
Hmm.
that's my very first interaction with Salesforce was through the APIs. On the other side, I did just like workshops, with clients, just like to collect needs and all of that. um, I did not speak, obviously. I was a juniors. Juniors, by definitions, are bad at their job because otherwise they wouldn't be juniors. So I did not have the liberty to speak, but I could attend, which was already great. And I did that for a couple of months, attending workshops, getting to see how it worked, interacting with Salesforce through mostly the APIs, and then starting to configure Salesforce with just like objects and stuff. But you got to remember that Salesforce was not in the same place, right? Just like, I mean, honestly, I feel kind of bad for juniors today because they've got so much shit to learn. Honestly, like I mean, I had to learn
Oh
how
yeah,
to create an object, put a page layout, and just like if I feeling fancy, I put shatter on it. It was just like I was a godsend. Today
yeah.
is just like if there's no custom permissions, three lightning pages, and dynamic flows, it's basically just not useful. So yeah, things have
That,
changed.
that thing where you said about being a junior in there and kind of not being allowed to speak. Um, it's one of those things that I agree. So first of all, I agree that a when perhaps I was a junior in other places, but also um, b kind of in general, there is this kind of view that uh, more junior kind of developers, consultants, or whatever are there to kind of attend, take notes, kind of watch and learn, as it were, is kind of I suppose the standard thing. One of the things that I've always tried to do when I've been leading teams or workshops or things like that where there is a junior or more junior person in, and truth be told, for someone in like your position, my position, where we've been doing this for a long time, there's a lot of people that are more junior than you when you kind of go into situations. One of the things I've always tried to do is I've got a feeling that the best way of learning is always doing things. And so do you, when you're now leading workshops or discoveries or whatever it might be, do you encourage junior people to speak up more, to get involved more, to lead sections of it? I mean, I'll be really honest. There was a period where what I used to do was to help the team was kind of have, if we had an 8 hour day, I would have, and we had a team of five of us. I would have
Mm.
four people kind of each do 2 hours, and me just be there kind of quarterbacking, for want of a terrible phrase, as needed. Partly because it was far fewer PowerPoint slides and things for me to create, so I was a bit lazy. Um, but also because I could then let people get that experience in building it and help coach them rather than rather than just show them something that was done and then go, oh yeah, I can see how Paul does that. Yeah, allow them to develop their own voice. How do you deal with that yourself now that you're leading a team?
It depends, is the short version. If somebody's actually got a bit of experience but is still junior, I will do the same as you. I actually try to encourage participation in any sort of situation. Worst case scenario, if they say something that is factually wrong or just like even mildly incorrect, I can just correct it or just like bring it back on track. That's fine. Just like, I mean, things happen, right? So
Yeah.
that's okay as long as they have an idea of what they're supposed to do. You got to remember that your question was about me. I was a student in communication and translation, starting in the consulting business, trying to understand how to gather requirements. I had seen
Mm.
literally zero of that in my life. Like to give
Mm.
you an idea, when I interviewed, they asked me to do a just like workshop about it. So I started all over the interview like I was at the theater, trying to pretend that they were my client and that I was a consultant because I had no idea what the hell I was supposed to do. All right. So I was very thankful for not having to speak, like at least for the first like few weeks, right?
Yeah.
Just I needed to see how it was done in order to know what was potential outcomes and baseline, let's say, interaction. Once that was done, I was happy to start interacting, and that was great, right? Just like I mean, and this is what try to bring to my team as well. But if I see that somebody's completely out of their depth, like I mean, I'm not gonna make them speak, right? Just like for example, if you've got a junior
Hmm.
that is free to attend an architecture decision meeting, they can participate if they want, but most of them won't open their mouth. Like, I mean, it's something that is just like very high above their qualifications, but it's still something that's interesting. And having them there lets them see considerations, arguments between people that have differing opinions regarding just like best practice. And I think that is very valuable, but their participation is not needed. So
Hmm.
I guess my shorter version is as long as the differential between expected skill set and actual skill set is not too high, I encourage participation, which is a very procedural way of saying it. But that's just like, I mean, the best I can do.
No, no, it makes sense. I think yeah, it's always a challenge, isn't it? Like kind of helping because when you said a minute ago that you got very lucky, you know, I'm completely the same. I was a .NET developer working away doing .NET on Microsoft servers, quite happy. And the organization I was at the time, the MD, I had a chat with them about getting my pension sorted because I was a very exciting 20-something-year-old who wanted his pension arranged, you know, because that's what rock and
Mm.
roll kind of people do. Um, and the MD just said to me, "Ah, you can look into it." He was like, "But you're not going to be here that much longer." And I was like, "Okay, right. What? That's not a normal thing for an MD to say to kind of the junior IT guy." And he was just like, "Oh, you're too clever to be here. Like you'll go off and work for someone that is a bit has more opportunities for you and does that." And I came out of the meeting and it was a very strange kind of feeling.
Mm.
I was looking around for .NET jobs, and uh, at the time there was no Salesforce jobs, so Financial Force were advertising for .NET and Java developers to then retrain them, and that's how I lucked into it. And then I got a consulting role where I was given a lot more rope than I probably should have been at the time, and did not hang myself and managed to continue kind of doing that. And then got into some different roles where I was allowed to make broader architecture decisions. And a lot of these things, as you say, are just more, yes, I'm good at what I do. And, or touch wood, I like to think I'm good at what I do. But a lot of it has been luck. And I think one of the things that's almost incumbent upon some of us with more experience in those positions now is to help generate a little bit of that luck for the for the more junior people, because you know is that we were incredibly lucky that we were given. I mean, you must remember that like there was some places I've worked and projects I've seen where it was so wild west, it was unreal. There was a period, some people may not remember, there
Mm.
was a period where Salesforce was selling everything so fast that it was growing so rapidly that projects were just falling into people's laps without any work up front done, without any kind of experience or knowledge on them. And we got very lucky, I think, being able to do these broader things without necessarily having that experience sometimes that you might expect. So yeah, I do think it's incumbent upon those of us with more experience to help out, provide that luck for those who are more junior.
I fully agree. The only thing that I'm going to say is we need to provide them with a way of getting that experience and getting there. Ideally, we need to provide them a way to get there faster than we did because honestly, Salesforce is a very complex beast now, and they
Hmm.
need, you know, sometimes you need shorthand to get somewhere that just like wouldn't have been possible before. Like you can't take the time we took, for example, to learn LWCs or just like learn how about like Lightning pages work. That's just not possible. Now they need that as a basis. But on the other side, I'm going to say that the reason that I don't put juniors under the fire directly regarding participation is because I feel that the Salesforce market is less tolerant now, let's say, of these potential failures. At the time when you had made a bad decision or had a problem or whatever, you could just like, hide behind Salesforce for a bit. And when I say that, I mean just like the software itself was very stable and just like very
Mm.
normative. So there was very little you could actually do unless you were going full custom. Today, it's much more possible to do incredible things, but it also means that, let's say, juniors sometimes get more possibilities for self-hanging than we did, and providing them a way of getting to the point where they can fly on their own wings without too much risk is also something that we need to do. I'm not being patronizing. I'm just saying the
No, no.
platform is just like way more complex than we could have ever done at the time. Like, I mean, when I started, it was still just workflows and approval processes. You couldn't even programmatically delete a record if you weren't using an Apex class. Just like, I
Yeah.
mean, it was secure as hell. You could
Well,
not
that's
mess up.
that security thing is, I think, a really, really key and interesting point on this. And I really, really agree with you about that kind of getting, excuse me, getting the time to get up and kind of skilled up and knowledgeable on things, because one of the one of the things that I was very lucky with is that I had the time to break things and learn from it, and make mistakes and move on, and work with others who made some mistakes and learn from it and get on. But like, there was a lot more time to kind of think and fathom out things, and also a smaller platform to make mistakes on, as you say.
Mm,
Um, the big one that I think nowadays is so different is security, because I would guess that 90, I'm going to guess a number now, but I reckon at least 75% of orgs are probably using some site or community. And those are two huge places where if you get your security model wrong, like, you are in a world of deep trouble. And then you start adding on to things like live chat and chatbots. I was looking at a chatbot the other day, and figuring out how you do the sharing model for a chatbot is a really interesting one, because that chatbot can see all contacts and can create cases and can create accounts, because they need to be able to kind of do the find and update and attach things properly. But what's that exposing? How's that working? How's that acting? There's some really key areas where you can really blow your legs off if you're not careful
mm.
nowadays. And I think the more guides that we get from things like the well architected framework and things like that are really, really kind of key.
Yep, agreed. Like, I mean, I love the well-architected framework. I don't know if I can say I've been one of the biggest advocates, because weirdly enough, my presence online is pretty small. My actual presence is SFXD itself, which has just like not stopped sharing everything well architected. But me myself, I'm more discreet, let's say. But just like, yeah, I love what they're doing. I may not agree with absolutely everything, but just like most of what they do is just like, I mean, almost impossible to disagree with, and it's very well structured. I think it's a pure value add to the ecosystem. So I'm quite glad they started this.
Yeah, I was chatting to Gurav Ketapal the other day for an
Mm,
episode of the podcast, and yeah, he was one of the people that was kind of involved in helping. I think he's a well architected. What's the phrase I'm looking for? A well architected ambassador or something like that.
mm,
And yeah, we were just saying like how just the decision guides, I think, are just, those are one of the things that are
no,
worth their weight in gold, for even for experienced people, just to sense check that, am I doing something because I feel comfortable doing it, or am I doing the right thing? I've definitely
yep.
noticed before that you'll sit there and it's like, well, I've done this way of doing it 100 times, so I'm going to do that way, but there's probably a better solution out there sometimes.
Mm. Oh,
So
I
yeah.
just agree. I don't think I have much of an answer here.
No, no, no.
I'm
It,
with
it
you on that one.
wasn't really for an answer. It was just, yeah. I just think it's such a good piece. So you mentioned, and we have mentioned already, SFXD. So for those who aren't familiar with SFXD, SFXD is the unofficial Salesforce Discord channel. Channel, is that correct, or server is probably the correct phrase? Discord is one of those ones where I occasionally mix nomenclature terribly. So
I think
um,
they're trying to rebrand it to communities now for a while. So server/community, both are fine.
community. So it's the unofficial Salesforce community. So you launched this in 2016.
Yep.
So So what made you get started? Why did you decide to like launch a Salesforce Discord?
Um, Boredom on a November day. I wanted. The short version is I love Reddit, or I mean, I loved it at the time. I'm a bit less keen now, but that's another discussion.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to see if there was a place for live chat about Salesforce. I didn't find one. It turns out that later down the line, I figured out that there was a few Slacks, like the Good Day Sir one, but I didn't know those existed. And joining Slack communities at the time was very hard. You had like a specific link that needed to be sent to you. There was no web page for it, so it
Hmm.
wasn't that easy. So I just created a sub Discord, just like saying, "Oh, well, I mean, it'll be fun. Maybe we can help a few people and just like have a small community going." And seeing as I was all alone in it, I added like two bots, one for moderation in case there was a problem, and the other one was a jukebox spot, so I could spend my time in a voice channel listening to smooth jazz, or just waiting for people to join. The very, very first member was one of my managing directors joining the channel because she was like, "What are you doing?" I told her, she joined. She saw there was absolutely no one there. Um, Disconnected, lost her account, and never connected again. That was SFXD's first member.
I mean, yeah, that's a good way of getting someone on board though. So how many members is it up to now then? Because it's got to be a one of the larger groups, surely.
It is. I think we're the largest chat-only group online. The exact number as of now is loading. I think it's something like I think we're above 16,000 now, of which there's quite a few inactives. So if you're looking at just like raw activity numbers, I think we're at something like 12,000 accounts that are active within a trimester, and something like 10K accounts active within 30 days on Discord. Something of that ilk.
Wow,
Activity
that's
being just like a Discord notion, right? So it's not saying just like the most active people ever, but it's still something that's
yeah. They're looking at
quite
it. They're logged
active
in.
for such an old group. Honestly, I'm quite proud because SFXD is just like old now. It's almost 10 years old.
That's going to be. I mean, it's well. First of all, congratulations on getting to that many people with the Discord because building communities is not easy. And what I'll do is I'll make sure I put a link in the in both the show notes and for those watching along, I'll put a link. So I'm just noting down the time. I'll put a link in the video at this point, but yeah, it's. I mean, as an SFXD member, I won't pretend that I'm the most active member by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a fantastic community to go and find things, and I think it fits quite nicely in a unique spot because whilst I was historically in the Good Day Sir Slacks, I haven't been for a long time now, um, and in a few others, is I find that the very broad nature of SFXD works really well. Yeah, it is. There is just a lot of conversation that there's some very helpful kind of conversations where someone's like, I'm stuck, I need some advice, I want to do this. But there's also a lot of just general nice chit chat going on all the time and a very friendly, welcoming community that isn't always present in other places or hard to maintain in other places as well. I think the fact that you're not so focused around a podcast or a book or something else really works in your favor. So it's an absolutely fantastic resource. So congratulations and thank you on behalf of everyone for setting it up.
Thank you very much. But to be completely honest, as I always say, it's mostly made for and by the community. I'm just the groundskeeper. I make sure that moderation rules are clear, enforced, and just like up to date, let's say. And apart from that, I just generate my usual content in the form of the abridged release notes and just like the April Fool's jokes for SFXD. And apart from that, just like most of it is the community. I'm just happy that we've managed to build a place where people feel comfortable sharing their knowledge and coming back, because that was hard, but I'm not gonna pretend that I have just like a huge um, part of communication inside of the server now. Just like, I mean, there's so many people sharing stuff that I would feel bad taking all of the praise. Like, I mean, it's literally for and by them. So thanks to them more than me.
No, it's one of those things that I think is always an interesting thing I've noticed as well about those that have built really good, strong communities. So, like, I had Amit Chowdhury on, who runs Apex Hours, a
Mm,
while ago,
yep.
as well, and he and you have just both kind of had the same sentiment of that thing of well, thank you, I appreciate the praise, but it's not me that's done it. It is all the speakers, all the for Amit it was the speakers, the people that turn up and attend the sessions and help keep that going for yourself. It's that community there, and I think um, that's a really positive mindset and attitude towards it, which I think is again why the community is so successful, is because it's not about you, it is about the community. Is there so I'm going to ask a cheeky question here, is that if is there anything you would change or improve about the community, if you had is there any wishes that you have, that there might be more of X or less of Y on the community, or are you pretty happy with where it is?
I think SFXD is pretty fine where it is. I think it's a great place. I also think that at some point in the next few years, we're gonna need a new guard. The current moderation team is as old as the server itself, mostly.
Hmm.
We haven't changed that much. We've had a few recruitments over the years when we need to bolster numbers, but just like, I mean, activity has stabilized over the years, so we haven't had to expand that much since then. Plus, most people are actually really well behaved, so we don't really have that much to moderate. We just need to have like at least somebody online.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been like, I mean, in total, it's been 8 years. The most recent moderator has been moderating for at least 3 years now, and most of us have been moderating for, well, at least five. In my case, 8. And it's just like, you know, life catches up. I'm older now. I've got also other priorities in life than just like, geeking over tech for just like literally all of my hours on the weekend. And there's quite a few people online on SFXD that share tons of knowledge, that are very participative, which is great. But we also need some people at some point that will, take the flame and continue building other stuff inside of the server for more people. So I guess what I'm saying is we're going to need, just like some new blood at some point.
Yeah, no,
Because otherwise it's going to grow old and stale, which is what communities do when they don't renew, which is also fine. Like, I mean, worst case scenario, in 10 years, SFXD won't exist anymore because we'll be old, and that's also good, just like a life is a journey. But in the meanwhile, if we want it to continue as it is, it'll need people to continue upkeep and energizing it. So
yeah.
I guess that's pretty much it.
No, I think one of the things there as well that you kind of hinted at is that a lot of these communities, I think people need to be aware are also dependent upon Salesforce. And what I mean by that is that at some
Mm,
point, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, who knows, maybe 50, Salesforce will be Lotus Notes. Like
yeah.
Salesforce at some point will be Lotus Notes or SAP or whatever kind of thing people consider. I mean, SAP is still selling billions every year. So, but at some point, it will be legacyware. And at that point, you've then got to think about, is it going to be, are these things going to be around? And, as someone who has written books about Salesforce, like someone once said to me, like, if you ever have like, will be nice. It'll be a nice thing for you to like let your kids or your grandkids or nieces and nephews see. And I just said like to them, if my kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews ever know what Salesforce is, I'll be so shocked. Like it'll either be the thing that like I've got a 3-year-old nephew and a 2-year-old niece. By the
Mm.
time they hit the workforce, like in let's call it a minimum of 16 years time, most likely, by that time, if companies are still using Salesforce, I will be. I mean, you'll be able to knock me down with a feather. I'm trying to build a business or a couple of businesses on
Is that
Salesforce, and
just
I'm
because
all.
you'll be old?
What? No, but yeah, yeah, just be old. You can just swat me down with a feather too much time, Sarah. But what I mean? It's like if they're going into the organizations and they're still like the and Joe, it might be Salesforce in a different throw to what it is. That would be fine and dandy. But like, let's be clear, if the current Salesforce setup and model like and technology is still there in 5 years time, really, because and that is a that's an interesting thing. I again would love to hear your opinion on is how how do you feel Salesforce will continue given their tech stack? The move to Hyperforce and AWS was a big thing to try and help streamline certain pieces. But Salesforce is effectively still an old Java app running somewhere in the background on an Oracle database. Is that
I mean, not
gonna?
really anymore, isn't it? Just like, I mean, I think they swapped out Oracle a few years back. I remember the white paper you were like, I mean, I remember the white paper where they described like the actual applicative stack where it was Oracle. And I remember that just like a few years back, they declared that they were changing the backend. So I don't think it's Oracle anymore, is it?
It still is. I will find out and double check, but Salesforce still use Oracle. They haven't migrated to. Um, there was a conversation a while ago because Salesforce was at one point the biggest contributor to Postgres. Um,
Yeah.
After they bought Heroku, they were managing releases and doing that, and everyone was saying like, "Oh yeah, they'll move to Postgres." And I remember asking former CTO Steve Tam at an MVP event
Mm.
after we both had a couple of drinks. Many, it was on the Dreamboat back when that was a thing at Dreamforce. So that's what 2014, 2015, something like that. And I remember asking him then and saying like, "Are you guys gonna like move to Postgres?" And he was like he said like any investigations we might be doing into technology are purely for investigative and research purposes, so we have backup plans. He was like, but Oracle are a valued partner for us, and because like shifting all that data's got to, I mean, shifting data in flight like that's got to be maddening. Can you imagine like just the sync issues for trying to every all these people updating records and you're trying to copy them across to two different um
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right. Like, I mean, it has been done in the past, so it will be done again, right? Just like gigantic data migrations happen. It's just, yeah, I don't know. To go back to your original question, just like what are they going to do in the future, depending on their tech stack? Um, like in my personal point of view, for the people that just like are in our line of work, I guess the answer is it does not matter, in my opinion. Weirdly
Yeah.
enough, every single release Salesforce has done in the past, like I want to say I want to say 7 years because like process builder wasn't this case, but I mean you're gonna see where I want to go to just like in a few
Hmm.
moments. But if you forget process builder, starting recently, so starting like the second iteration of Flow, so not the Informaforce buyout, but the one after that, and just like the Hyperforce integration. Starting this, every single release they've done, it is to go closer to web and general standards. So you manipulate flows like you manipulate any other programming language, which is its own problem in and of itself, right? But with a GUI, you manipulate databases more and more like you would manipulate a normal database. Like I mean, SOQL hasn't moved much, but just like I mean, the way that you can write it and interact with it through the different REST APIs and different endpoints, just like is getting closer to what you would expect on a normal, let's say, applicative layer. Same thing for just like, I mean, LWCs. We've seen the shift from, VF to Aura and then directly to LWCs where they are actually heavily investing into catching up to modern web standards in every single case.
Hmm.
Events, you're seeing the same sort of thing. Like, I mean, what's proprietary is moving towards something that is more and more like a normal run of the mill thing. So, what I'm getting at is if you're getting really, really good at your job right now, same thing with LWC, same thing with just like everything related to dynamic web pages, right? Just like, I mean, it's roughly reusable. You're getting skills that are usable in other places. Like you can literally leverage this outside of Salesforce now, which was not the case 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you were a Salesforce guy. Now you're a tech person with, you know, Salesforce point of view, but you can still cross skill. It's doable. Like, I mean, I guess the biggest point where you can see this is also like deployments, right? You see Salesforce DevOps now for a very, very long time. It was ultra proprietary. Now we're literally down to the same usual Bash, Jenkins, and whatever, just like stuff you're putting in
Mm.
place that you have at other companies. So I don't think it matters too much. I'm quite confident that for the skill base, Salesforce is doing a great choice because we can cross skill easily and have more forward facing skills. For Salesforce itself as a company, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea.
No, it's yeah. I know what you mean. It is an interesting thing about how much Salesforce are moving towards those web standards. I think one of the things that I'd like to see Salesforce do more of, which I think would actually help them, and perhaps the move to Hyperforce and the move to, if they are moving to Postgres, it's still everything I can find on the internet in the background. While I just had a quick Google, suggests they are still on Oracle. So they may have. Someone said that they possibly on Hyperforce are on Postgres, but not. But no one can verify that anywhere. Anyway, so the point being is that one of the things that I think, going back to kind of our point on Agentforce, that's interesting and more generally around Salesforce is if they are moving to a consumption-based model, which is the norm
Mm,
for the rest of the public cloud, how that will affect, I mean, massively how it will affect their revenue, but B, for organizations, how that will allow them to scale differently. And, if you are on more standard web technology and you're reducing your infrastructure costs through the use of AWS and through the use of possibly Postgres and through the use of, they're not having to run big Java servers to do Aura or Visual Force anymore and all of these things because LWC just runs on the browser.
mm.
I think that I can see that move making them a lot more agile and flexible in the long term as well. So it's I don't see Salesforce disappearing for a long time, and I think that they're making the right moves to stay relevant and stay flexible. But it's always interesting to think about where it could be.
Oh, agreed. I mean, I don't think it's going to disappear or anything. It's just saying, like, I mean, what's the future for Salesforce? I'm not completely sure. I think they've nailed, honestly, what being a CRM is about, right? Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a ton of things that they do well, and that's actually why we all have jobs,
Oh yeah,
which
I
is
mean
great.
it's still one of those things that the other week I started writing um, a new app for my ISV for groundwork apps, and
Mm,
it's a Next.js application I'm working on. And
mm,
I was like, oh, I've got to write authentication again. Like I've got to figure
mm,
that out. And that was just like, how do I do this again? Because I've not written authentication for an app for like 5 years. Because why would I have? It's not. I've not done it. I mean, I've done it a couple of times since working with Salesforce, but you just don't
mm.
need to normally. So, it is a fun thing to try and figure out. So, because of your work with SFXD, you were awarded an MVP, awarded or
Yeah,
made an MVP, which was, and you'll forgive me for not knowing the date, was it 2019 or
2020. I'm 4 years running. I was on the
4 years
same
running?
cohort as Narender. We were both in
Oh,
Berlin.
cool.
That's why I know.
Cool. So congratulations. I mean, I know it's 4 years late, but congratulations on being an MVP and being renewed so many times. Have you um, have you found that being an MVP has given you more opportunity to help promote and grow SFXD, or has it made very little difference?
I would not say that being an MVP has changed much or at all, if we're being
Yeah.
completely honest. I feel the program is very US centric, let's just say it like that,
Mhm.
with very few possibilities of interaction otherwise. It has given me a few possibilities for me, for my own personal enjoyment of speaking more closely with Salesforce people and having
Mm.
better information for just like, lucky guesswork, let's just call it like that, which is great. And it has given me opportunities for better certification and training, which is absolutely lovely, which I mean, as well, right? Because you
Yeah.
were also an MVP for years. But apart from that, I don't feel the program is very Europe centric at all. I think it's more just like what the community leaders make it. And by choice, I am more a community leader on the internet than in person. So for me, it's just like I don't think it's changed a lot. What it has changed, I will say this, is the day I was made an MVP, we had like a minor celebration on the server. Everybody was elated, and it was really just like it felt incredible because it's one of those things that are just on the internet. It's just like you don't really think it will happen, and then just like something just like happens out of pretty much nothing, right? It's just like
Mm.
you know, it is just the net, and all of a sudden it made this. So everybody was quite happy for this, and it gave us as a community more energy to invest in ourselves and in growth, which is also why we got, like, we created the wiki, we created lots of things afterwards. Like, I mean, some initiatives have disappeared since then. Like, I mean, we used to do weekly trainings at some points during COVID, which stopped because, life caught up.
Yeah,
Turns
yeah,
out
of
doing
course.
weekly trainings takes a lot of time. But
Oh yes.
a lot of that was just like also powered by, let's say, the recognition that Salesforce gave us. So I don't think it gave us anything like external, like regarding external communication or external gratification, apart from the initial announcement, not so much, but just like internally and for us, it was a great achievement, and it gave us energy and looking for the word. Um, why am I actually getting the German word for pride? Uh,
Right. Yes, it's one of the things we're talking in English to a polymath like like yourself who can speak or polyglot, sorry, who can speak multiple languages. It's having to figure out the right one. Well, yeah, and I think that the recognition of you as an MVP is again also, and I think you'd agree with this, not just you, but also it is a recognition of that community you've built and how well they've done, in kind of promoting themselves and building that community out there.
Oh, very much
'Cause,
so. Like, I mean, that's also why, like, on the MVP renewals, I try to also always tag like the moderators and the members that I know have contributed the most over the past year. Just because, like, I mean, I think it's valuable to value them. Let's say, like, I mean, once again, they're the ones making the community what it is. There's some people that I've tried to value officially, but I can't because I still don't know who they are. Some people
yes,
really value anonymity, let's just say it like that, and as such, I can't really thank them enough for all the work they're doing for us. Like, I mean, in the sense of just like all of the other members that are benefiting from their knowledge, but I try.
yeah. Well, this is it. You can, but only try. But no, I think it's again, congratulations, and you are one of those people I think is a very well deserved MVP for the work you've done. It's I
Oh, thank
always feel that I always feel that MVPs should be, and this is again just my opinion, not an official thing. I'm a Hall of Famer now, so I'm not even important on them. But it's I've been kind of told to kick out and go to the long grass. But the uh,
Oh, come on. No, like, I mean, Hall of Fame is much more like it's an important award. I mean, just for reclarification, in case anybody doesn't know this and they're listening to your podcast, that means you were an MVP for more than 5 years by old standards, and that they still wanted to renew you. So it does mean
it's,
that everybody is recognizing your work in the Salesforce ecosystem quite a bit. So, like, I mean, it's not pretend, it's not a big thing. You are
it
a
was it was
hugely
it
important
was
part of the Salesforce ecosystem. Come on. Just like, I mean,
it, it
there's
was
something
9 years.
humble and there's this.
It was thank you very much. It's very kind. I mean, it was 9 years I was an MVP, and I think that if I think that there was either I must have had some dirt on someone for them to keep me that long, or so someone just felt it was time to get rid, but which is fair. But the what I was going to say is like my view of an MVP is that it should be someone who excuse me does things because they want to do things out of the goodness of out of the goodness and interest of doing them. I've and everything I've ever done like this and all my other things I do purely because I want to help people share and understand and hear from interesting people. Not no, is not everyone can get access to get you on a podcast to listen to your experiences and thoughts and share those ideals. And so I think that being an MVP has to be about doing that. And I think what you've done with the SFXD community is a prime example of that. So 100% very well deserving. So
Thanks.
no, you are more than welcome. So what's next then for you? So like because I mean you and I. So for you and I have known each other for a while now. We've done a couple of live sessions together on SFXD, and I see you blogging. I know that you have the just to kind of take a step back, in fact, and to mention the abridged release notes. For those who aren't aware of the SFXD abridged release notes, they are. I mean, I flick through the real release notes, but I wait for the abridged release notes because they actually like kind of boil it down. Because I mean, like, there's 3,000 pages long. Like, who has got time for that? So they are a fantastic resource. I'll put a link to the abridged release notes in the description and things as well, because they are really, really valuable. So thank you again for those as well. Is that, can I ask, is that a team effort? How big's the team on that, or is that just you sat crying
It has
reading
depended
3,000 pages?
historically.
Yeah.
But it's been most. I mean, it was only me at the beginning. There was a team at some point. It's now back to only me. There was a team for a couple of years in the middle. Actually, it tied with the biggest growth from SFXD. Like, I mean, when SFXD was getting really, really big, I want to say just like, I mean, 4 years ago, just like, I mean, it peaked with COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was quite a bit of the moderators contributed on the release notes because there was one mod who was an expert on Einstein analytics at the time, Wave, when we started those. Another one was a very seasoned developer with forward-looking mindset. And a few others had specificities and stuff I didn't know, which were important at the time, like maps, even though they had just gotten acquired and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, I used those people, or more just like I mean, those people contributed to the release notes willingly without any sort of
Yeah.
duress because use those people feels really weird. To just like I mean help make the release notes the best they can, but since the past few years, like I mean I've gotten much better at my own understanding, let's say, of general coding principles and just like I mean forward-looking statements regarding these. Most of the external Salesforce products have either ceased to exist or have been folded into core, and I'm at the point where I can basically just solo them. And I'm, as I said before as well, life goes on, right? It's been 5 years. It's just like people's lives have changed. Some people don't even have a focus on Salesforce anymore. So just like I mean, there's not been a lot of renewal. So it's now just me, honestly. Like for the past few releases, it's been just me with a special mention to the James, who is my main reader who corrects all of my spelling and grammatical mistakes. There are quite a bit because let's be completely honest, after a week and a half of research and just like typing it down in Markdown, I don't really care for spelling anymore. So he
Yeah.
fixes a lot.
Well, they are worth their weight in gold. So thank you for doing them. And if anyone is listening and wants to help, lower the workload on poor Jeffrey here by helping out, I'm sure he'd be very willing for some assistance or more proofreading. So yeah. So what I was going to ask then is, as I say, you and I have, and it was probably during COVID, in fact, that we did the live session or live sessions when I was on with you on the SFXD
Mm.
virtual event. So I'd be interested to know, like, what do you have any things that you've got planned? Any kind of things you're working on that you want to share or talk about, or are you really now just in kind of a maintenance mode almost of kind of keeping things growing, keeping things ticking along as they're working and seeing what happens.
I wouldn't call it maintenance mode, but I guess the main focus we have right now are more the April Fools. Like, I mean, we do April Fools not every year. We only do them when we have like a good idea, but every
Hmm.
single time we've done them, we've almost blown up the server with it. So I'm quite happy to say that we have probably one of the most aggressive April Fools ever implementation in the back. So I just want to make sure we do those again and continue making the community what it is. Because if we're speaking infrastructure wise, it's just like if SFXD started, it was a one channel server. We're now 16,000 strong with just like I checked again. So that's 10,000 members that are still active, just like in a minimum of 30 days. So that's just like quite still huge. We've got like maybe 20 channels, a wiki, a website. That's not counting all of the bots that I host to just like make sure that everything runs well. So it's just like it's not a huge investment anymore, but it's still just like a couple of hours weekly, just making sure everything runs fine and just like updating events, whatever. Oh, right, I forgot. I also ingest automatically all of the Salesforce events that they put on their website, and I just like put those directly on this
Yeah.
on SFXD's events thing. So when you see Enforcer posting about all of the YouTube things that they're doing, all of the developer podcasts, etc., that's because I have specially developed events pipeline that ingests stuff from their website and shoves it down the
Ah,
Discord's API throat. So I mean, I continue working on integrating more stuff, right? When Salesforce invariably breaks my bots or just like puts new avenues for events, but I just don't think there's much that's missing anymore. Honestly, it feels pretty well featured for a unofficial Salesforce community where just like people can hang out and chat and just like view releases and have some fun. So for the rest of it, I think my energy is going to be more spent on just like stuff like the April Fools, minor celebrations, maybe trying to put back some office hours at some point if I've got a bit more people interested in getting those open again. But like I mean, it's just about making the community live. I don't think there's a lot of infrastructure left to develop at the point we're at.
no, that makes sense. The with the April Fools, can you give us an overview of what your favorite April Fools has been that you've done?
Oh
Just for
man,
those
every
that
single
haven't
one
been
we've done
involved.
has been completely destructive and it's been absolutely awesome. I love it. One of the very first bad April Fools we did, just like really we went all out because obviously before we did minor stuff, right? Just like as most people do. And one year I really wanted to have SFXD blow its top. So at midnight on April 1st, I changed the server logo to Microsoft Dynamics, renamed all of the channels to Microsoft 365 products, made sure that Enforcer basically said that we were now a Microsoft Dynamics server, changed the introduction and changed the rules to reference Dynamics. And every single time somebody started mentioning Salesforce, the bot would answer something like, this is now a Microsoft Dynamics server. Please stop speaking about competitors' products. I was already very proud of that one, and just like a few hundred people, which at the time was huge, right? We were
Yeah,
barely a few thousand. A few hundred people left, thinking that Microsoft had bought out Salesforce and that it was basically a hostile takeover. And then one of the mods decided to make it even worse by basically making sure that every single time you use the Salesforce wording, the bot would answer more and more aggressive sentences, and then going as far as Zalgo text, where it basically looks like glitched out text
yeah, yeah, yeah.
being written in Unicode. It ended up with the bot like basically spewing nonsense everywhere for the rest of the day for the last few hours. It was unusable. It was beautiful. In total, I think we lost a few hundred people that day. Like in total, even more afterwards, because people really thought had gotten bought out. It was lovely. Absolutely lovely. When we reverted afterwards, it was fine. And the other one was when ChatGPT came out. I plugged it into a Discord bot, and the prompt was very, very long, where I basically force fed information that was something like I had it speak as if it was a high schooler in love with Pokemon that knew absolutely nothing about Salesforce and was in a very bad like I
Oh
am not
wow.
speaking to you phase, and if it detected a question mark in any sentence in the server at any channel, it would take the channel name, pass it as a parameter, take the message from the person, pass it as a parameter, and answer based on that personality
Oh
for an
wow.
entire day. It cost me very exactly €1. It was
Oh wow.
great.
Yeah. Per-
Tokens are
perfect.
cheap.
Perfect planning for a single day's worth of jokes. So yeah. So well, I look forward to this year's or next year's April Fools to see what absolute madness occurs. So
Yeah, I don't know. I'll find an idea.
I'm sure you will. So uh, thank you very much for coming and chatting today. This has been fantastic, and I've learned a ton, and I'm sure those who've been listening or watching have learned a load as well. Those who've been watching must have been enjoying the Nyan cat behind you. For those that have been listening, you won't have seen it, but you'll have to go onto the YouTube channel to find out what I'm on about. One of the things I like to ask everyone who comes on the podcast is for a tip or a piece of advice that they would give to those that are listening, and it can be something technical, can be something about careers, can be something about something that we've spoken about today. And I'd be keen to find out if you've got a particular tip or piece of advice that you'd like to share with those that are listening. And obviously, when this comes out, I will be sharing the recording in the SFXD Discord so everyone can hear it. So, what would be your piece of advice or tip?
Um, I'm guessing if you're listening to this, it is currently on your lunch break or equivalent. So if not, on your next break, take 15 minutes and ask yourself, what is something that you can, what is a moment where you can take 30 minutes that is just for yourself? Not for your dog, not for your family, not for your parents, nothing else, just not even for your friends, just for yourself. And ask yourself, what can I do in 30 minutes that will actually bring me a single unit of joy in the day? And do that whenever you close down your computer for the day. Whenever you're closing down the computer for the day, just take 30 minutes and do something that makes you happy, whatever that is. And just like try to enjoy the moment. It's
That
important
is
to remember to also take care of yourself.
that is a fantastic piece of advice. What I mean, are you happy to share what your moment of joy will be today when you close your laptop down?
When I close my computer down, I'm going to go down. I'm going to play the piano for 15 minutes, and then I am going to get a small mint syrup, go into the garden, and just chill while waiting to see if it's raining or not. And if it's raining, I will smell the grass that is going to be wet.
That is a fantastic thing to do at the end of the day. I have my Spanish class tonight, so I am going to go spend 30 minutes when I close my laptop down practicing my Spanish, ready for the class, so I don't feel completely unprepared and enjoy doing so. Thank you so much again, Jeffrey, for coming on the podcast, or thank you so much, Windyo, for coming on the podcast. You know, however, people would like to refer to you and know you by your many names. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, thank you so much for all your stories, all your words of wisdom, and all your thoughts today. It's been fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, Paul. Lovely as always. And yeah, thank you again. And just like, I guess we'll speak again soon, as always.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and watching. Remember to subscribe if you want to hear future episodes as they come up. If you've enjoyed this episode today, please do like it and share it with someone. It really does help. And if you've got any thoughts or comments, please leave them below on the YouTube video. And I look forward to speaking to you on the next episode.